Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are out there, however you're listening. This is the Dadcast, the Dad Pod, the Sports and Stuff podcast. I don't know. The name or the title is still being workshopped. We'll get to that and eventually nail something
It's
down.
it's it's Dadcast.
It's the Dadcast. All right. We might fall on that. We'll figure it out at some point. I'm your host, Bo Bingen, so I appreciate you guys all joining in today with me for the inaugural, the first ever, the pilot episode. Tyler Scheberl. Tyler, thanks for being with me, man.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Good.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining in. You and I go way back, like
Oh yeah,
as far back as I can remember going back.
yeah. Blocks and ABCs and oh yeah, 20,
Uh,
20 plus years.
Kindergarten up to standing up in each other's weddings.
Yeah,
It's quite
yeah.
the road we've traveled.
Oh, it
I,
is. It is. Not too many people have that at 28, knowing somebody for almost 25 years. It's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So our friendship is built over time. So that's why I wanted you to be on here with me for the first time.
For
So
sure.
we're gonna fuddle our way through what is the first episode here, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll make something out of this. My dream job in life is to get paid to watch sports, talk about it, and get stuff wrong about it, but be able to talk about it and get paid. So we're not doing that yet, but
100%.
hopefully we'll get to
100%.
that point. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So we're both Wisconsin natives. So we're gonna base this podcast on a bunch of sports, primarily Wisconsin sports. But we both watch all the leagues, primarily NBA, NFL. I mean, you probably pay attention to baseball a little bit more than I do, but we'll talk about some baseball too, and we'll throw some soccer in there. Who knows? And we've got some other
Yeah.
stuff planned. Um,
Hockey's really not the I mean, hockey, I should say hockey is the only thing I really don't watch. Obviously, playoff hockey, I kind of keep an eye on. I really don't know. I don't even know the rules of hockey, to be honest. But
yeah.
something I've always wanted to watch, but just kind of never got around to it with everything else that's going on that time of year. So,
Well, and Wisconsin doesn't have a professional
no,
hockey
that too.
team, so
That
I
too.
mean it's not something that we usually get into necessarily. But we'll start off with some Packers talk. You were at the game. We'll get your thoughts. We'll dive in a little deep into the Packers, see what our thoughts are, what we think is going to happen here going forward.
Yeah.
We're both big cornhole fans, so we'll have a little cornhole corner. Talk a little bit about that. You had a big event within the last couple of weeks. We'll get your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the kiddos. You and I are both relatively new dads.
Recent dads. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're both fuddling our way through that as well. So we'll talk about the kids for a little bit, and we'll round out with a little World Cup talk since the World Cup kicked off today. So
Yeah. Good
you
first
were
couple games.
yeah, you were at the game, the Packer game
I was Thursday night. It
on
was a
Thursday.
chilly night. That's probably the coldest Packer game that I've been to. I
Chill.
think 4 years ago I went to and against Atlanta in the middle of December. That one was pretty chilly, but I think Thursday night might have topped it.
Yeah, it's part of the aura, right? Getting into
Oh, for sure.
Lambeau in the middle of November. It's cold. They're playing against a team that in Tennessee that was they weren't favored necessarily. I think the Packers were 3.5. I think it closed at 3.5.
3.5.
Um,
Yep.
but if you would have told me that you really expected the Packers to come in and beat Tennessee by more than three, I think I would have scoffed at that. And so, what did you think? I mean, obviously, leading up to the game after the Packers beat the Cowboys 2 weeks ago, there was a pretty good feeling about the team. I thought, from a consensus Packer
Yeah. Yeah.
fan.
I don't think there's a whole lot of people out there, even the fans, that expected that win against Dallas, especially being down 14 to start the fourth quarter.
Right.
I think a lot of people that gave them some motivation and like, hey, maybe there's some hope for the rest of the season. And then they come out and I wouldn't say like a goose egg, but they definitely didn't play um, a great overall game. I think Tennessee they had 4 pass plays of over 30 yards. You know, that doesn't always happen. That hurts. They were all, if I can recall, they were all on mostly third down.
Yeah.
So that's always disappointing, trying to get off the field and then giving up a big play like that. Um, I think for the most part, I thought they held Henry. I mean, I don't have his stats down. I know he was under 100 yards, if I'm not mistaken, for running. He
Yeah.
did have that one big catch that ended up going for
Yeah.
about 50, and
Yeah.
then throwing a touchdown, which he has done in the past before. I know a couple people that were sitting by me were like, "Oh, running back through a touchdown." I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's like his third or fourth one that he's done. They've done that a few times over the past years. Because I mean, if you're down on the one and you got Derrick Henry, you're thinking run all the way,
Oh
and then
yeah.
that little tight end block
Little pop
right
pass.
down
Yeah.
the middle. Yep, yep, it worked beautifully. So
Yeah.
that didn't surprise me one bit, but
It was a little bit of a mess, you know, and the Packers have been so good on deep third downs this year, and to see them give up big plays on third down consistently throughout the game, it was a little bit of a shock. And
yep.
giving up big plays where you could have gotten off the field and get the ball back in Aaron Rodgers' hands, give yourself a chance to score some points and maybe, you know,
Mm-hmm.
claw back after you got down early. And it just never materialized. And it was the whole game. The Packers couldn't get off the field on third down on defense and then couldn't pick up third downs on offense.
On
And
offense, no.
it just kind of went like that until eventually it
Yeah,
ended. So
yeah,
what
and I
was
don't know. I don't know if how much you see on television. Obviously being there, there were a lot of third downs that I feel like the ball got thrown away, and there was definitely some open receivers downfield. I know the intentional grounding that from my aspect of where we were sitting in the stadium, we were in the north end zone. That happened in the south. I thought it was a safety. He was
oh
on.
gosh,
I
yeah.
think he was on like the one, maybe.
Yeah.
From my angle, it looked like a safety, but Lazard wide open for
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
I mean, not anybody within 5 yards of him, and it's like, I mean, from our perspective, it's like, how do you miss that? I understand you being pressured, and it looks different down there, but
Yeah.
I definitely think there was some big throws in the game that a different option would have been better than either the throwaway or who he threw to. So, not normally something we see from Rodgers, but I feel like that's kind of been this whole year. I understand we lost Devontae, but it's been a struggle to say the least.
But the thing that goes along with that, and yes, you've got a lot of young receivers out there, but Rodgers is such an astute individual, and it always seems like he knows the offense so well. And for him to be missing consistent reads like that,
Yeah,
it's really troubling. And now that
we've
they've
never
lost
seen it.
Devontae, well, that's just it. So they've
Yeah,
lost Devontae, and now he's trying to spread the ball around. It seems like, and it's just not working for him. And then you get into the late, you know, fourth quarter, and they've got the ball and they've got multiple chances to get back into the game, and he's then missing throws,
yeah,
which is not something that we see from him
nope.
very often or haven't seen. So maybe it's age, maybe it's not, maybe it's the cold. You can tell that he gets happy feet a lot quicker than he
Oh,
used
for
to.
sure.
He's
Yeah,
not nearly willing to stand in there like he used to, and just kind of take hits and try and get the ball to where it needs to be. But I
yeah.
don't know. What do you think? What was the feeling in and around Lambeau before the game, during the game, after the game? Obviously,
Uh,
we heard the fans booing for the first time. That was
yeah.
surprising.
I believe our first drive was 3-and-out, correct?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a very vocal group behind us that from the very first possession was getting on Rodgers.
Oh
After the
yeah.
first quarter, they were asking for love. They kept doing Jordan Love
Oh
chants.
man.
They were not feeling it. Anything that Rodgers did wrong, if they think he could have ran for it another yard, or if they think he should have thrown it to someone else, they were letting them hear it. So it was kind of
Yeah.
funny. It never got to a point where it was annoying, but they were on him from the get go. So um, like I said, not something that we're used to seeing and hearing. Um, I don't recall ever hearing the Packers fans booing. Obviously, if it's like a
Nope.
big third down or something like that, but from like throughout the whole game, there was quite a few boos.
Yeah. And it got louder and louder as the game went on, and
Oh
we
yeah,
got to the fourth quarter, and the Packers continually failed to pick up third downs, and
yeah,
it was ugly. You could hear it even on. I'm sure being there, you could hear it more. But
yeah.
we
There was a little bit of hope. What was it, 17-20? The fans started getting into it. Everyone
yeah,
was getting all jacked, and then just like that, Tennessee drives big 7 yard or 7 minute drive all the way down to touchdown. And then
you know,
we have like one first down and punt, and then they go and score again. And
yeah,
that's hurts when you're down 3 and all of a sudden you're down like 14.
yeah.
Oh, not good.
It sucks the life out of you. And when you can hear fans at Lambeau booing because of the poor play, you know
Yeah,
something's bad. You know it's not
for
going well. Something's going
for sure.
poorly for the team. It's ugly. So what do you think? When do you think we see Jordan Love? Do you think we see him this week when we play Philly?
I don't. You know, I think if what do we got here? We got to buy in 2 weeks, right?
After the Philly game, I think that's
At a
right.
Philly
Yeah.
game, we have a bye. Yep. So I think if we, depending on how we play against Philly, then we come out and I believe we play couple divisional games after that bye. I think if we're in week 14 or 15 and we're not getting at least one or two more wins, I think you might see Jordan. I don't think there's quite the time to put him in yet.
Right.
I definitely think it's there. That they drafted him with the future in mind, and if they think that's what it's going to be, then I think they need to get him in some live game
Well, that's just it.
moments.
So you give Rodgers this big extension. You expect more from him, you would think,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
As an
Yeah.
organization, you expect what you're going to get out of a guy that's on average getting $50 million a year from this contract extension. You got to get good play, a guy that's coming off back-to-back MVPs. So I think until the Packers are mathematically eliminated, you
Yep.
leave Aaron in there.
You leave him in for
You
sure.
know, if
Yep.
and Philly didn't look all that good today either, playing against the
No.
down in Indy, playing against the Colts. So I don't know.
Colts team. Yep.
They seem to be struggling a little bit. Yes, they pulled out the win, but they seem to be really struggling. They're kind of wishy-washy the last couple of weeks. So we'll
Yeah.
see what the Packers can do. I think they're on the road in Philly next week, so that's not
Yep. They are. Yep. I think it's a Sunday night, I believe too.
so that's a tough environment. We'll see how it
Oh,
goes.
for sure.
But
Yep.
if it gets ugly, you might see Love at the end, but
Yeah.
you probably don't see him until the Packers are mathematically eliminated. But then I think you have to give him a chance, right?
Oh, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So we've gone back and forth, and our buddy Kyle is a big fan of Joe Barry, and I say that with all skepticism, baked in. So, what do you think? Do you think he's the coach that goes before the end of the year, or do they think that you think they hold on to everybody and let this year?
I think they let the year go through.
Yeah.
I don't think finding a replacement from most likely from within is going to be the answer. Obviously, with some injuries, Gary's out. Stokes doesn't have the best year. Stokes being out.
Yeah.
Devondre Campbell's been out for a few weeks now. I mean, obviously that stinks.
Yeah.
I don't like I don't like his scheme. I think we got the players to do well. I think that
Yeah.
zone, we've done man a few times in the last weeks, and I feel like it's worked.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're back to zone, and I think that's exactly what happened against Tennessee. They were finding pockets, and they were scheming against it, and it was working beautifully. So I think the mid game adjustments just aren't there from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint. So
yeah, and it's something you can see if you watch Packer games, and that the opponents that they play don't trust or don't have any respect for the receiving core that they put out there. So
yeah,
you will consistently see the defensive players or the defensive backs for the Packers opponents up on the line of scrimmage, pressing them, kind of rerouting them, making it difficult for them. Whereas the Packers are playing with a lot of cushion and playing that match zone, and it makes things easy almost for the defenders to get a free release, find the
100%.
pocket of the zone, and even especially on third down, if you're not making it tough for the receiver and just let them find that pocket of the zone and catch the ball, you're not making it hard for the defense. And especially with the pass rushers out that we have, Gary
Yep.
being the big one, you're not making it hard for them. And a guy like Tannehill, who
sure.
doesn't really move all that well, if you can put pressure on him, obviously we saw it today in the Minnesota. I mean, we're not watching the second half, but we saw it in the Minnesota Dallas game. Minnesota lost their left tackle, Darisaw, and the Cowboys defensive line was just teeing off on him, and they couldn't do anything.
Was it seven? Sorry, 7 sacks, I believe. By the time they cut out of that game to a more interesting Cincinnati Pittsburgh game. I mean, they don't typically do that.
Right.
That was slated as a primetime game, and to pull away halfway through the third quarter is pretty sad.
Yeah. Can you remember a time in which the NFL would cut a Dallas Cowboy game when it's the game of the week? I mean, that is incredible.
Never.
Yes,
when it's 40-3, that's what happens.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's just
or 37-3, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. That's brutal. So I don't know. Any other thoughts on the Packers before we move on?
We'll see what next week brings. I think Philly does have a couple of flaws. I don't think their 8-1, well now 9-1 record shows a whole lot. They did beat this Minnesota team back in week 2. Other than that, I believe everybody they've beaten is pretty much out of a sub 500 record.
Yeah.
And a couple of them they have very much struggled with. So we'll see. I think they have a chance. They have Aaron Rodgers. I think they have a chance, but definitely going to be hard if they lose that one to proceed to playoffs. I mean, I know as bad of a record as they have, in reality, with 6 games left, they're 2 games back. the NFC's not
The
that
wild
great
card,
other than the division leaders. I mean, the NFC South, who knows what that's going to
well,
happen.
that's just it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you might get a 500 record. I think the Bucks are sitting at 500 right now and leading the division.
currently
So
winning
who,
by
yeah,
half a game or something. Yeah,
so who knows what's going to happen out of there? And you look at the NFC West. I think the 49ers are. Oh no, I
five and
think
four,
Seattle. Yeah, Seattle's winning that division currently, but they looked
six
awful.
and four.
They looked awful
Yeah.
in Germany playing against the Bucks. So
Oh
nobody
yeah.
knows what's going to happen out of there. And
Yeah.
then you might get three
No,
teams out of the NFC East.
I
With
think you're going to.
yeah,
I mean, the Giants looked absolutely terrible today. I mean, the Lions are also on a 3-game win streak, playing well. Who
yeah.
play the Bills next week, which I'm calling it. I think the Lions are going to win that game.
Where is that game? Do you know?
It's in Detroit.
It's in Detroit. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
yep.
We'll see.
So I don't know if it was supposed to be in Detroit. I don't know, the Bills schedule that well.
Oh no, I
Obviously with
think
the snow falling out there, I don't know if it got moved to Detroit or
no,
if it was supposed to be there originally. But
I think that one was supposed to be in Detroit because the Bills had the Packers at home and the Vikings at home. So then they
okay,
would play at Chicago and at Detroit because
okay,
they're in those
sure, yep, yep,
cross
yep, yep,
division
yep,
play this
yep.
year.
That
So,
makes sense. Yeah.
but yeah,
So
that'll be
I
interesting.
definitely think Campbell's got that team rolling right now, and I think they got a legit chance playing at home. They play well at home. It's all about if that defense can make a couple stops because that defense
Yeah,
is pretty bad. So
I think that's an over game for sure. The Bills and Lions. That's going to be a
yeah,
lot of offense we're going to
I
see
think it
on
is. I
that fast
think.
track in Detroit.
I mean, I'd be surprised if it was 31-37, something like that.
Oh yeah,
Something real high scoring, 20, 27, 31, somewhere in there.
yeah. It'll be a fun one. We'll see what happens. All right, so let's move on. You just recently attended I believe what was Wisconsin's largest cornhole tournament to date,
Yep. Yep.
held in the state of Wisconsin over in the Dells at Ho Chunk
Ho
Casino,
Chunk. Yes.
Badgerland Bag Brawl. That was put on by a couple of different people, but I think the Washes had
Yeah,
their
Aaron and
finger on the
Stacy
pulse there.
Washa. Yep, they were on Mad City Cornhole based on Madison. They definitely got some help from Connor Clapper down in, I think he's Kansasville area, Southeast
Milwaukee,
Wisconsin
yeah.
Baggers, Milwaukee, Kansasville. Yep. They got help from Jordan over at Golden Sands. They also got help from
Point
the
area, right?
Point area. Yep.
Yeah,
Then they got help from the Brat City guys as well. Chris Rabia helped them as well.
over in Sheboygan.
Over in Sheboygan,
Yeah,
yes.
so it was
Yep.
it was a team effort.
Yeah, yep. So it was Stacy and Aaron's idea. They reached out to all the, I say district kind of loosely,
Yeah,
but all the regional, managers to try and get help with boards and setting everything up and score sheets and everything.
sure.
And so yeah, it was their idea, but it was kind of a whole statewide get together to run the entire thing.
Yeah. So what did you think of using Ho Chunk as a venue? How did it
I
all
thought it was
look?
great. I thought
Yeah.
it was great. Yeah. So they had a room downstairs and a room upstairs.
Okay.
Downstairs held, if I can remember, 33 or 36 sets of boards, and upstairs
Okay.
had like that 28 to 30 as well.
Sure.
Downstairs in the main area, they had the live stream
Yeah.
going on all day by K9 Unit. So the number one board was having some big games all day long on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. Being singles on Sunday, the blind draw on
Yeah.
Friday night. So I didn't make it to either of those. I just did doubles on Saturday, but
Yeah. Being at a casino, that's an interesting place. I don't know if
yeah,
like the ACL, I don't think they use those kind of venues really. I think they all use
no,
kind of
their own.
like
Yeah.
ballroom type
Yep.
deals or like
Yep.
gymnasium type style things. But
Yep.
yeah, I
Yep.
thought that
This had
was
nothing to do with the ACL. Actually, also it was on Scoreholio.
was it really? Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It was on Scoreholio. They did round for, like I said, I'm just coming from Saturday because I didn't do anything besides Saturday.
Sure.
Saturday for doubles was rounders and then a double elimination single game tournament.
Okay.
Rounders was something that I have never done before. I know
Really?
you've been
Okay.
to some tournaments
Yeah.
before, but there was Swiss Holio. You ever heard of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the Swiss Holio compared to the rounders that I've played. So if you play your first game and you win or lose that, you're the 1-0 or 0-1. Your next matchup will be against another opponent that has the same record as you.
Yeah.
So if you're 4 games in and you're 2-2, you'll be playing another team that is 2-2.
Yeah.
If you're 5 games in and you're 3-2, you'll be playing a 3-2. If you're 0-5, you'll be playing an 0-5. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of evens out the playing field a little bit.
Right. Because if you don't do that and you just put people against you just randomize it, you could have a team that's red hot and get consistently matched up with teams that aren't playing well or that
Yeah,
keep getting tough matchups and losing. So
yeah,
that kind of adds another layer of fairness to the setup where you're constantly playing against teams that are in the same kind of bracket level as you. So you're playing
yep,
against
yep.
teams of similar record. Cool.
Yeah, and after those rounders, it got split into 4 brackets. They called
Okay.
them platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. Platinum being where the big money was.
Yeah.
Second or first place for gold, I want to say was dang near $2,000. So I mean
Yeah.
that's a nice payday as well. But
Yeah.
obviously, platinum was filled with an incredible amount of pros, which the state of Wisconsin doesn't normally get. You get Jay Rubin that comes up.
From
I've seen him
Illinois.
at Fond du Lac a couple times. Yep, he's from the Chicago area. He brings up Nico.
Yeah.
I've seen David Morris in the Fond du Lac area, as well as Madison.
But all those
uh,
are Illinois guys, right?
all Illinois guys, yeah. But
Yeah.
from as far as big names, we had Jordan Plower was playing with Steven Bernasette. Nico was playing with Gustafson. Noah Wooten and Ryan Windsor were there.
Yeah.
Shermer Horn and Neil Stat. Trey Birchfield, Noel Almanza. I mean, there was David Morris and Adam Hissner.
Yeah.
It was cool, coming from my perspective. I've never really gotten to big tournaments outside of Wisconsin. And so
Yeah.
to see the people that I watch on ESPN, the people that I followed for years in the sport,
Yeah.
in person. I did practice on a set of boards with Noah and Trey, and kind of shot the shit with those guys. It was just like normal
Yeah.
dudes, just playing bags. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just really cool to experience. The one thing I would say that I wish I had more time to do. Todd and I we did quite well. We made it to the gold bracket and made a nice long run and ended up in 4th place in gold. But I never really got to sit down and watch the main stage, where all these big
Sure.
name players were, because I was playing myself and made it pretty far. And then the night kind of got away from me, and it was dang near 8 o'clock by the time I left there. I didn't get a hotel
Yeah.
room. I had the 2-hour drive back. So I wanted to get going right away. And so I know I watched it back on the live stream the day after to kind of see some of those games. But
Sure.
just to see those quality throwers and people that I don't always get to see, I thought was really cool experience.
Yeah. So you and I would probably put ourselves in that crew. Like if we're talking about a tournament with that kind of level of play, average from a skill level
Yeah.
perspective, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, how many games did you play throughout the day in that doubles tournament? Do you remember?
So we played 6 games of rounders. Todd and I went 4-2, and then we made it to the quarterfinal where we lost 21-20, which hurt.
Oh,
I actually had last bag. The previous 2 rounds, Todd and I both had a bag to win it. It didn't happen, and the board was sitting 4-3. I had 3 on, and he had 1 on, and then he had 1 in. But those 4 that were on were very spread out.
okay.
And
So
I
messy board.
didn't. It was a very messy board, and I talked to Todd. We took a time out, and he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, dude, if I throw it on for the wash, and I'm fine with that, and you can try and win. I said, if I try to throw it on and it ricochets, because this is such an ugly board, goes flying off the side,
Hit
I'm
one and knock it
gonna
off.
be pretty mad.
Yeah.
So he said, why don't you shoot it? I think I was 2 for 2 or 3 for 3 on airmails that game. He's like, shoot it. So let it go, and went about 2-3 inches too long right down the middle, and we ended up losing 21-20 to the people that ended up getting, I think, 3rd overall. We got 4th, they got 3rd.
Yeah.
So that was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 games in. I'd say at least 4 games.
Yeah.
And then we won, that I can recall, at least 1 in the losers bracket, and then lost to the eventual 2nd place team.
Okay.
Who they were pretty hot. My guy wasn't as hot. Can't remember the guy's name that Todd was throwing against. Kyle knows him. He came to Fond du Lac a couple of weeks ago
Okay.
with his partner and gave Morris a run for his money too. Guy ended up
Sure.
winning competitive singles the next day. So very solid
Yeah.
thrower, very consistent. So yeah, we got 4th in gold and lost the 3rd and 2nd. So kind of hard to complain. I ended up winning $100. So
Yeah.
I'd say we played a total of,
Maybe 15 games.
I'd say at least 13, 14 games for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I think it was certainly worth the attendance, right?
oh,
For the
absolutely.
experience and to throw that many games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think just I haven't with a newborn at home. I didn't get to too many tournaments this summer.
Yeah.
She takes up most of the time, which I'm fine with. So it took me all of rounders to kind of get into a rhythm.
Sure.
Todd and I were switching bags. We were trying different methods. We were playing the block game. We're like,
Yeah.
something's got to work here. And then what ended up working is the OG Ultra Vipers, the moneymakers.
The
We
money
ended up
makers.
whipping the moneymakers out, and we
cool.
went on a nice run with those. So
Very
when
nice.
in doubt, pull out the Vipers.
Yeah, no kidding. So last thing on this one before we move on, what do you think it was about this tournament that drew in all those big names?
I think the size of it, it's 300
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah.
The most important one was how much they were advertising. Ho Chunk donated $5,000 to the winnings, which
That's incredible.
that's pretty crazy. They had
Yeah.
other sponsors, locally and non-locally,
Sure.
that were platinum sponsors and gold sponsors, and I think they raised another like $3,000-4,000 on top of the 5,000 that Ho Chunk had, and then on top of the entry fees, it was $600 a team, 300 teams. You can do the math. The pot was
Yeah.
the largest I've ever been to, so
Pretty large. Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. Yeah, and the donations went strictly to doubles. That did not factor into
The
blind draw. That
draws.
did not factor into singles. It was just a doubles thing. So
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So and
yeah,
I would imagine
it was
that
quite
Ho
a bit of
Chunk,
money being tossed around in doubles. So
and I imagine Ho Chunk made that back.
profited.
Yeah.
Oh,
Without
yeah, I
question.
would think if they would have donated 10K, they probably would have been fine. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Absolutely.
after a successful year, there's obviously talks of doing it again. It was so successful. I would think that Ho Chunk might up their ante a little bit next year, because I'm sure they have all the stats of income per month, and I'd like to know how much with the hotels and the casino and food and just everybody there and getting their name out there. I'd like to see how much they actually made. It'd be interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you have a chance, watch out for the second Badgerland Bag Brawl. Check it out over in the Dells, at Ho Chunk Gaming and Casino. That'll be a good time. Even if you don't throw bags, go and check it out. You're gonna see a lot of big name cornhole players. See some good cornhole. See some good sacks thrown around.
Yeah.
So we've heard from Cam a few times. Do you want to introduce Cam to us?
Yeah. Hey, can you grab her? She's in her bouncer right now, talking to absolutely nobody. So
talking to anybody that'll listen. Just
anybody.
Like us.
Yep. So 6 months. She just turned 6 months. Her name is Camden Dottie. She's pretty great. She's a smiley little girl for the most part. She did just get her 6-month checkup, so her shots are kind of over the last couple of days. She's been a little out of it, and I think those hurt a little bit. But
that's always fun. The 6-month shots, and there's more to come of those. That's for sure.
I don't know where she went.
Okay.
But yeah, she's starting to I mean, she's been rolling over for quite a while now. She's right on that verge of crawling. Yeah. Just for a second. Hi,
that's so much fun.
Hey, say hi to Bobo. Who is that?
Cam.
Who is
sweetheart.
that? What is that?
The first baby to make an appearance on the podcast.
Nope.
And she does exactly what exactly what you'd expect, is tip the phone over.
Oh, no, not feeling it.
That's okay. Thanks for joining us, Cam.
Yeah, so she's right on that verge of crawling. She on the tile in our kitchen, she kind of scoots and can slide. She doesn't really do the whole crawl thing.
Sure.
On the carpet, she's gotten up on her hands and knees and does the old the balance and then kind of plop.
Yeah.
But I said about a month and a half ago she'd be crawling by Thanksgiving. Obviously, that's in 4 days, so
yeah,
maybe not quite, but for Christmas she'll be all over the place. So
yeah. So quickly, what do you think has been the hardest part about being a dad? What was something you didn't expect that you'd struggle with?
Well, I think everyone says like the lack of sleep is going to get to you, and I thought that I'd be a little more mentally prepared for that, but I don't think anything can prepare you for getting up 5-6 times a night and early. Obviously, I'm not as useful early on,
right?
With the feeding and everything, but as she starts to get bottles and food and stuff, she it's hard to complain. I think she sleeps pretty well.
Good.
Usually right now she gets up maybe once a night, and normally we just kind of let her. Lately we've just been letting her kind of whine it out just for a couple minutes and fall back to sleep. So we're trying not to go in there and hold her, rock her, just kind of let her do her thing.
Try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what have you enjoyed the most? Because it's an amazing thing becoming a parent.
It is. What and I think like when I come home from work, just like seeing her smile. She's such a smiley girl. Her smile is contagious. I think seeing her just progress through life and go from, not being able to hold her head up to looking around all the time. She's just so intrigued by what we're doing all the time.
Yeah.
Whether we're walking around, whether we're eating food, whether we're watching TV, she just wants to be there, wants to be involved. I'm just looking forward to the crawling, the walking. Obviously, it's when they get mobile. I know Alaric's running all over the place.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
You got to start gating stuff off and making sure he's not going to get hurt, and that's a whole different aspect of it. But I can't wait for that. We're just right around the corner here, a few months, so it's exciting.
And Alaric is my son. He's a little over a year old, and he has figured out how to walk. And I won't say he's got it down to a T, because he looks like a little drunk 40-year-old with his big beard hanging out and stumbling all over the place, but he knows he can walk, so that's all he wants to do. So like today we were at Lowe's, and my wife and we had him in the cart, and he was sitting in the front, and he didn't like that because we had stopped and we were looking at something, so he wanted to get down. So we took him out of the cart, we let him down, and off he went. He was gone. He was ready to start running, and he was having a grand old time.
Now he's over in plumbing.
Yeah. All of a sudden he was gone. He was checking out washing machines and seeing if he could climb into one. It's been so much fun. It's amazing to watch them progress and to see them learn how to do things and how to pick all that stuff up. And you're exactly right about them being curious. I mean, we're sitting in the kitchen and Kaelin's making dinner, and Alaric wants to be up and watching. And what are you cooking? What are you doing? What are you holding? He wants to see it all and be a part of that. So it's been really cool. We'll circle back on this in the future when you come back on, and we'll walk through the progressions, because we're kind of doing it at the same speed, and it's a lot of fun, and it's brand new to both of us. So we're struggling through it together. So I'll close out with this. Quick shout out to our high school. We went to high school together, the Mayville Cardinals. Back-to-back trips to state in football. They played the same team from over in lacrosse. They did lose this year again, but that's okay. I wanted to quickly shout them out, because that group of guys is clearly something special. The first time they went to state since before we were even high school, 2006. So that was the gap. 2006 to 2021. That's a pretty good gap. So clearly
15 years of
So clearly Coach Hilbert's got something special with that group. So we'll see
what I didn't know that he coached Columbus before he came here and took them to a state run too, which I was not aware of. And he went to state while he was playing in high school. So the dude knows his football. Whether he's playing or coaching, he's shown success on and off the field. So it's I'm curious to what they're going to do. They had a lot of seniors, a lot of people that have been playing together for some years. So we'll see how that regression might go. But I think there's hope. I know the kids like him, and the parents talk about how good he is with them, and it's exciting, because Mayville sports have not been all too great for the last decade. So it's nice to see something like that. So
absolutely, I'm with you. So we'll see how it goes going forward. But quick shout out to them. They clearly had something special with that group of guys, and they won a ton of games, and they beat a lot of good teams. And
for sure.
Unfortunately, didn't
had their chances both years and lost by a total of 10 points in 2 years. So that's rough.
Games. Yeah, it's rough, but hey, you made it 2 years in a row. You're proud holding 2 silver balls, and those
proud.
Yeah, those can never be taken away from you. So props to them. Well, hey, again, appreciate you coming on. I thank you very much for joining me on the first episode. Obviously, we're going to talk again soon, but we'll have you back on the podcast, and we'll BS some more about the Packers and whine about Aaron Rodgers some more.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Have a good night. We'll talk soon.
Yep. Later.